Okay. We are Facebook live streaming this, so I gotta get this right. On behalf of the Board of the Ohio Arts Council, the OAC Executive Director Donna Collins, the OAC staff, the gallery team, welcome to the Ohio Arts Council's Riffe Gallery. My name is Mary Gray, and I am the director of the gallery. Quilt National 17 marks the Riffe Gallery's 9th collaboration with the Dairy Barn Arts Center, which I can hardly believe that. And it's a biennial exhibition, so that goes back a long time. You do the math. Oh, somebody up there. Somebody at the door? Okay. For many years, I had the great privilege to work with the late Hillary Morrow Fletcher, Quilt National Project Director from 1982 to 2006. Hillary's love for art quilts was contagious. I know it fit me and so many others. And I believe because of Hillary and her passion and dedication to Quilt National, it continues to be one of the premier art quilt exhibitions in the world. Today we are honored to have Hillary's husband, Marvin Fletcher, here with us. Marvin, want to give a wave? Marvin was surely Hillary's partner in crime when it came to art quilts. Today he is an internationally renowned art quilt collector and a tremendous advocate to the Dairy Barn Art Center, for the Dairy Barn Art Center and art quilters throughout the world. Marvin, thank you for carrying on Hillary's legacy. This year's Quilt National Biennial Exhibition features 85 artists representing 28 states and 9 foreign countries. Jurors were Nancy Crow, Petra Fallow, and Art Martin. The Riffe Gallery is exhibiting 36 quilts from the original exhibition. We have what we call Collection C and a portion of Collection A. And if you look at the catalog, you'll understand how the sections are broken up. With us today to provide a tour of the exhibition is Jane Forrest Redfern. Jane is a lifelong lover of the arts and executive director of the Dairy Barn Art Center since 2012. Prior to joining the Dairy Barn team as a gubernatorial appointee, Jane was the director of rural policy for the Ohio Department of Juvenile and Family Services, or right here in the Riffe Center. And prior to her state position, Jane was the director of rural action in Athens. Please welcome Jane Forrest Redfern. Yeah. Need help?
Yes.
We have.
I feel like a
holster.
Holsters. Yeah. All right, we're glad there.
Double mic'd. Okay.
Okay. I'd first like to say thank you, all of you, for coming today, and thanks to the Ohio Arts Council. There are many staff people here that not only support the organization, but they also fund us through grants and support through social media and support organizations like the Little Dairy Barn Art Center in Athens, Ohio, and to be able to keep our legacy moving. So I want the staff and the board of the Arts Council to please raise your hand, because these folks are making the arts alive here in Ohio. A special shout out, and if I'll just steal these. A special shout out to Mary. The cake is not just for us, but it's in celebration of a milestone in Mary's life, and that is 25 years here at the state of Ohio at the Arts Council. And she has been an advocate. She is a dear friend of mine in that she brought all her sisters down to the Dairy Barn to see Quilt National. And it was like a reunion because I have 4 sisters as well. And so we just had a really good connection there. And by bringing Quilt National here, we open up and be able to expose this beautiful exhibition to a larger audience right here in Ohio. And so we really appreciate it. And thank the Arts Council for all of your support, because if it wasn't for you, it's just the support is an incredible support of our organization. For those of you that don't know, the Dairy Barn Art Center is in a 104-year-old dairy barn. It was part of the Athens State Hospital. It provided milk. The original goal was to provide a glass of milk for all of the patients as well as staff at the state hospital. And by 1953, it was built in 1914. In 1953, there was over 1 billion pounds of milk produced at the dairy barn. And we had the state champion dairy cow. Her name was Lotta Fay. You can go on our website. She's beautiful. With that historic nature of being one of the premier dairy operations in the state, supported by the state, it was a very productive organization and barn, and grew to 9 different barns. But in the 70s, a number of laws changed, and the state hospital closed and moved into a smaller facility. And there was really no need for the dairy barn. And in 1977, 78, there was a rumor out that they were going to tear down all the dairy barns. And a small group of artists, the Hocking Valley Arts Council, formed the Save the Barn Committee. And the Save the Barn Committee organized and proposed to Governor Rhodes at the time, as well as the state and local mental health agencies, that we could make the series of barns into a premier art center for Athens, Ohio, and the region. And with $10,000, they said, you can have the main barn, and they tore down the other barns. But this year, we're celebrating 40 years as an organization. And so this is a beautiful story of, one, preserving historic places, preserving our cultural heritage, and lastly, celebrating the arts and all that we can be in promoting the economy, promoting artists, and teaching the next generations through our camps and our classes and our workshops. So we just underwent a major expansion, and so I want to invite everyone to come, because we continue to preserve it and to provide it as the most premier place in Southeast Ohio for the arts. The caveat in adopting the dairy barn by the state was that you had to have an exhibit within a year. And so 3 wonderful women, Virginia Randalls, Frances Barnes, and Nancy Crow, suggested that that first exhibition should be a quilt show. And it should be a juried show. And it shouldn't be just typical quilts. It could be open to any quilt, because there wasn't a place for contemporary quilts in the history of our region. And so Quilt National was founded. In 1979, after a jury reviewed slide after slide after slide, we did it slides for many years, up until what? How many years, Marvin? Maybe 8 years? Up until 8 years ago, we were doing slides. The Quilt National, from the very beginning in 1979, was always an international show. And since its inception, we've had 9,946 artists, and I did count every single one. And over 20,463 quilts were submitted to Quilt National in its history. We've had 20 panels of jurors, and 1,552 quilts by 798 artists have been in Quilt National since its inception. It's toured to 32 states, and yes, we're trying to get the 50. I'm a big milestone person. 86 museums. It's traveled to Japan, Canada, the Netherlands, France, and we are just so excited about our celebration last year in Athens in celebrating the 20th biennial. We did it with the Quilt National Artists Reunion, where people came from all over Israel. We had an artist come from Taiwan. She wasn't able to come back in 95, but she made it to the reunion, and it was a great celebration. We had a quilt crawl where everybody went around Athens and looked at quilts all over town. and throughout the region. And it really was a special celebration for the 20th biennial. As Mary said, our jurors were Art Martin. He was the associate curator and collection managers at the Muskingum Museum in Michigan. Petra, who is the curator, and she worked as the curator at the Carnegie Mellon University of Gallery for many years. And of course, one of the founders of Quilt National, Nancy Crow. Many of you may wonder how we get these. We ask for submissions of quilts. It is a blind jury, so the jurors do not know who these people are. They do get the dimensions of the quilt, what they're made of, as well as the artist statements. People are allowed to submit up to 3 quilts, and at a certain point in the jurying process, if the artist has more than 1 quilt, the jurors decide which quilt will move forward. And so that no artist has more than 1 quilt in the show. We had 85 artists from 28 states and 9 foreign countries, and one of the things we're very proud of, and Marvin, as our historian, was 35 new artists that had never been in Quilt National before, and he says that's not atypical, but I think it's pretty great. So I wanted to share that with you. What we have here in the gallery, and I could go through all the artist statements and the stuff. I'm going to walk around and just point out some kind of features of quilts. But I feel like there are some themes, some techniques, as well as things that I'd like to point out in this particular show. I think, especially if you had joined us at the Dairy Barn, I think the first thing that you would think of looking at the show would be color. Back in 13 and a little in 15, the colors were a little duller, and who knows why. But this was a very colorful show, very dynamic show. Another thing that we saw throughout the exhibit was upcycled materials. These are plastic bags that they utilized and quilted into their piece. There are other pieces that, and I'll point this out as well. A lot of the artists are hand-dyed their works. That's a theme. Some reflect historic in nature personally, as well as times of their life. So they're an expression of what they may be going through, the country may be going through, as well as Nancy said in her artist statement, strong voices. As you see these pieces, they all stand on their own. And Nancy was really, really pointed at making sure that every quilt that was in this exhibition showed a strong voice. And that is one of the things that you'll see throughout the exhibit. Another thing, and I guess I'll just get started. This piece is called Spine, Iron Spine 5LX. And Natalia Itkins does a lot of architectural quilts. And so this time you can see the fire escape here. Usually her pieces are a lot smaller, so this was a really new innovation for her to go bigger. And that is another trend that we're seeing, is that Quilt Nationals, most of the quilts, were getting very, very small. People are now starting to work bigger. So that's why we had to expand the dairy barn. No, not really. But upcycling materials, they're plastic bags, as well as the architecture. Petra here, she's also a former architect, city planner, artist, social worker, social services. You can see kind of the architectural theme here, as well as the social services. Very bold colors. She won a Jurors Award. Each Quilt National, the jurors get to select a piece. The jurors in this Quilt National decided not to give their names, but they collectively selected the Jurors Awards. Petra is from Philadelphia.
Gary.
Sorry?
Gary spelled out.
Gary. What's that? I'm saying Petra. Sorry. Gary, thank you. Thank you, artists. They helped me a lot. Okay, so she was in Mastery, which is a quilt show that Nancy Crow curated, and really the colors in her quilts, and they're always large. I want to point out, I had mentioned that a lot of times artists have quilts that kind of represent things that are going in their lives or experiences. Judy Kirpich is a longtime Quilt National artist. She actually is one of the jurors for Quilt National 19. This is called Anxiety, and the substatement is retirement. So this is, it looks like she's going to have a very busy and moving retirement, colorful and movement, but Judy Kirpich is very talented, has been on our covers, and we're very pleased to have her as a juror in Quilt National 19. Another thing that, this is the Carrie Green piece. There were a number of color gradation, geometric shape types of quilts in Quilt National. And Carrie's piece, as you can see the catalog, and I left it on the podium, of course, we really felt that this was a good piece for the cover. And it's always kind of a, oh, it's such a hard choice. But I think the colorful, the movement, and the lovely nature of this piece, and just the construction and techniques are just incredible in this quilt. At David, the reason I bring this up was this was made from one piece of material of which she quilted in different ways. The reason I point this quilt out is there is an award that Hillary named, and it was called Persistent Pays. And artists, year after year after year, submit work to Quilt National, and a lot of times they don't get in. But if you do get in, we keep records of how many times you've submitted. And David submitted 5 times, and she finally got in. And so Hillary wanted to recognize people for their persistence. So she won the Persistence Pays Award. And actually, there was a tie for the 5th. And it's in the catalog if you'd like to do it. One of the historic, a couple years ago, photographs were very, very kind of a technique that people were using in Quilt National quilts. And Al, this is actually Al, he brought, his sister gave him a little photo album of all of his pictures as he grows up. And this is his dork stage, as you can see. And the beautiful thing about it is that it's using photography, but in a different way. It's not actually printed on there, but actually quilted it at utilizing the photograph as an inspiration. So I loved Al, and he was one of the few men that got in, but we loved this piece, and so did the jurors, and they loved the size of it also. We want to move over here to Kit Vincent's piece. Kit has, she was in our Mastery exhibition, and this quilt and Kit's technique drives traditional quilters crazy, because they say, well, why are there strings all there, and there are rough edges, and and they always just want to touch them, and pick off the pieces of thread. But this reverse applique and the quilting is just incredible. She was in Mastery. She did red, white, and blue in the same treat, and she is truly a master quilter, and she continues today to really utilize the colors and the technique in such a creative and fun way. Paula, she utilized these dots as kind of like personalities, and she says that these little characters take on their own life. And when she does quilting, she likes to make sure that it gives life to something, and by doing these little rock people, she did that in giving them all personality in life. And it's really fun to look at it, and just, it makes you smile every time I look at it. Joan Schultz uses a very interesting technique in quilting. Oh, sorry.
We've got a little bit of left back here.
Move along, move along. Everybody. No, it's all fabric. And those are stitches. That's a stitch. I know, it's incredible. She's a master. Joan Schultz uses a very interesting technique in that she uses magazines, because magazine pages are a number of layers thick. And what she does is she lays it on silk. She glues it on silk, and then she'll put the magazine on and rip it off. And this is actually about kind of looming. Well, you have to read the artist statement, but it's basically about. You'll see flowers here, and it's about kind of the emerging of spring. And or you could read whatever you want into it, but it's a really interesting technique. Joan has been a Quilt National juror. She's been in many, many times, and her techniques over the years have evolved. What really touched my heart about when she was in the Quilt Revolution exhibit was she sits down with every grandchild, and makes a quilt. And she said that is her lasting thing, to teach her grandkids how to quilt and to carry on. And I think that's a really important thing for all of us to look at. Last 2 Quilt Nationals, we haven't had any artists submit under 30. We have a cash award for those artists, and we're just letting the money lay on the table. I like to give money out, so please grab onto someone that's younger, and encourage them to enter, and show them contemporary quilts as a different way of quilting. So I want to punch out. Is Lynn here? Lynn? Lee? No? Okay. Kate, you want to talk about yours?
Sure.
We are blessed to have a Columbus area, Westerville, Quilt National artist. She's been in many, many times. Come on down. And Kate is always surprising us with her different types of quilting. And I'm going to let you talk about it a little bit.
Okay. I'm Kate Gorman. I'm delighted to be here and to be in the show, and thank you, Jane and Mary and Flowers Council and all that. So this piece, in the last few years, I have really enjoyed working small, but I wanted to go big, so I had to figure out a way to do that, to enter this piece. So when I started this piece, it was the year of the 17-year cicada in Ohio. Huge, loud cicadas. I love to draw. I draw with thickened dye on linen, and so the cicada kind of lends itself to doing that kind of line work because they're very linear. I had gotten these entomology pins, so kind of it was this convergence of all these different things that came together, and so this is kind of a break from what I usually do, but it has put me going in a new direction, so that's been really good.
And it's hand dyed.
It's hand dyed, and yes, so I started all of the linens that are on here began as kind of this color, and then I altered the colors and then drew on it and then took color out with bleach and added more color to it and then stitched. And the names of the cicadas are all actual names of cicadas. It's not the scientific name, but they are, many of these are from Australia because Australians have a much better sense of humor about their insects than we do. So they have the cherry-nosed whiskey drinker and the flowery baker. And we have things like the bush cicada and the, I think we have the Apache, which is up there too, which is kind of cool, but not as cool as the cherry-nosed whiskey drinker.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so there are lots of different prizes that we give out at Quilt National. Some people would say the Japan prize is the premier prize. Best of Show is pretty great, but the Japan prize is offered to someone that teaches quilting and that has an innovative quilt and that is incredible at what she does. And I am just very pleased to introduce my dear friend, Denise Roberts from West Virginia. And she's also in OH+5, now showing at the Dairy Barn. You can come and see other pieces in this series. But she won the Japan Prize. She's going to talk about her piece and then also talk just briefly about the Japan Prize and her experience this fall.
Okay, hi everybody. I started this series a couple years ago after working very complex for a long time, where I would have many curvilinear pieces working. I was here for an exhibit that was called Material Pulses, that was curated by Nancy Crow, and I had 6 pieces in that show, and they were all so busy that after I got done with getting ready for that exhibit, I was longing for something more spare. And so I wanted to study spare and found it very difficult to have a minimal amount of pieces and get them to work nice together to come into a good composition. So I challenged myself to use as few cuts of fabric as possible and then have them interact to create a new form. This piece was created with 2 pieces of cut fabric. So this is one piece that was cut. It continues up there. And then this would be the other piece that I set in after I set in this piece. So the curves were a challenge, but great fun. And I'm well on my way in this series now. I think I have about 20 of them pieced, not all quilted. And I chose to do my own quilting and do circles because when I look at these pieces, there's nothing linear in it. So I thought it was the perfect choice for it. And then I love the texture that it created. I do hand dye all of my own fabrics in old wringer washing machines in my backyard. We live on a farm in the mountains of West Virginia, and people often ask me what we raise on the farm. My reply is always dyed fabric, hundreds and hundreds of yards. So every summer I just go at it and I'll dye 600 to 700 yards in a 7-week time frame. Because unlike painters, when you piece, you have to have your palette ready. And I call it the stacks, and it's got to be in the stacks. And if it's not there, you have to hurry up and dye a piece or make do. So I just recently brought 12 washing machines to the Amish country in Ohio, and I'm getting 3 refurbished ones to come home in brand new shapes. So I'm real excited about that. My trip to Japan, I'm still dreaming about Japan. I don't want to cry. It was a trip of a lifetime. It was just wonderful. The Japanese hospitality was extraordinary. And we found help everywhere we went as we got lost in Tokyo, here and there. And my workshop went really well. It was a lot of fun. They were very gifted students, very eager to learn, and a lot of them were instructors, which was a little intimidating. But they all did wonderful. And we just had a great workshop. I had an excellent interpreter. She also came with me to do the jurying for their 14th biannual International 14th Quilt Nihon exhibition. We did the preliminary judging at our homes this past summer, and 86 made it through. And so then I met with the 4 other jurors, and they were all Japanese women, so my interpreter came in really handy again. And we started at 10 o'clock in the morning, and they had hung all 86. And this was for us to do the awards. And so we had our own exhibition, and this is a brand new facility that they've just moved into this year. And their gallery had walls that ran on this track system, so they could just make any kind of a maze out of these walls. And then it all tucked away in a closet when they were done, out of view. And they had lighting that was just gorgeous lighting everywhere. So what a treat for us judges to have them hung just so we could look at them. So we spent all morning going around doing a point system And then after lunch, we all joined together at this long table, and they would bring in the top quilts, and then we had to debate and discuss and defend our choices. And that went on until 7 o'clock at night when we were finally done. So it was a very long day, and it was very educational and enlightening for me to hear what they had to say about their different quilts. So many of them were so exquisite, a lot of handwork that these women worked on for 3 or 4 years. So they were just gorgeous, and it was a wonderful experience. And then at the end of that, Mr. Seto, who is the executor of Japanese Handcraft Association, took us all out to dinner, and it was a traditional restaurant in the high-rise section of Tokyo on the 52nd floor. And the view was just take your breath away. I kept on waiting to see a plane go by. We were up so high. But it was just the most wonderful experience, and I'd like to thank the Ohio Arts Council. I'd like to thank you and your staff who were so helpful in guiding me with my endless questions. And I'd like to thank Mary and the Riffe Gallery for having us here today.
Thank you. As I said with Judy Kirpich's piece, sometimes their pieces of work are driven out of personal experiences. And this quilt is named Defining Moments 12, and she does have a series of defining moments. This is 12, and no means no. And if you look through the quilt, it says no means no, but it's to reflect her experience of an unreported rape. And so a lot of times these quilts really bring emotions not only out in the artist, but also out in the viewer. And this is certainly an issue that's prevalent right now. And so a lot of these quilts, no matter if you see a 79 quilt or 85 or a 99, they're contemporary, and they may show history and time, but a lot of the expression is personal experiences and that carry through all time. This beautiful, this quilt, you just want to grab it off the wall and wrap yourself in it because it reminds me of the old-fashioned bedspreads that my mom had, and I actually still have a lime green one. But this got the Surface Design Award. Judy Martin got the Lynn Goodman Boardman Award for Surface Design. She said she actually quilted this in a hoop. And she said when she sat to quilt, it was like having land on her because it was so warm and the colors. And it's just so incredible, the design of it, and it really just speaks to just land and the colors and the design. So, you know, not all Quilt National quilts are hand quilted, but there are those exquisite ones that hand dyed and hand quilted. And so many people are afraid we're going to lose those old techniques with the fancy sewing machines. But there are quilts like this, done by Judy, that just show the expression of the old techniques are still alive, and we need to keep teaching them. I could talk about everyone, so it's really hard. And I know the artists on Facebook Live are going to get upset, but we'll do the best we can. Liz Axford got the Award of Excellence, and the artists, or the jurors, had pointed this out. This is all hand dyed. The artist talked about the gradation of color. The quilting is exquisite, and the artist was trying to strive for making it look like it was painted, a painted piece as opposed to a dyed and then quilted piece. And I think she did an excellent job at that, and that's why the jurors gave it the Award of Excellence. And this is my favorite piece, but we don't need to talk about that. Kate Gorman was from Ohio. We also have another Ohioan in Quilt National, It's not rare, but it does happen a lot. Jeanette Pratt is from Athens County, Coolville, Ohio. Yes, there's a Coolville, Ohio. It's in Athens County. And Jeanette she just recently got her master's degree. She teaches workshops at the Dairy Barn in natural dyeing techniques. And this is Meadow Memories, Studied to Summer Work. And this was about living on a farm and the facts of life of having to butcher animals that you have raised and so anyway. Another technique or another theme is a lot of piecing. This piece, I think, wins the award for that, and expression of, this may, how did they do this? I'm so glad I'm an art director, because I would not make it. I don't have that kind of patience. You can ask my Eli, my son back there. I do not have that kind of patience for this. And they're so talented. The color palette, the design, and the incredible artistry of piecing these works. So it just exemplifies what Quilt National is, and that's innovation of techniques and contemporary works, and also hand dyeing, which is a modern theme. Do you want to work back there? We have about 10 more minutes. Am I forgetting anything, Billy? Holly?
Sounds great.
I do want to introduce Julie Weller. Does all of our social media at the Dairy Barn. Last year alone, we got over 1 million impressions on our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube accounts. And Holly Ittle, brand new at the Dairy Barn, she is our new exhibits manager. So I just want to introduce those two folks. And I wanted to recognize my son for coming, because what 24-year-old wants to come to a quilt show? But I'm so proud. He just finished a year in Maine as a AmeriCorps Vista volunteer serving America. And he moved out of Athens. He lives here in Franklinton. He's going to be working on an urban farm and also doing a second language after-school program, which is starting on Monday, right? So anyway, I'm really touched that he's here. So thank you. Get my kid in there sometime. Darren Redmond has been a quilt. She was in 15 and 17. This piece is called Indiana Flowers. Her garden really inspires her. The natural environment inspires her. The 15 quilt was called Glorious Summer. This is Indiana Flowers. She has a piece at the Dairy Barn in OH+5. She lives in Indiana. That is a installation piece, and it's her dyed fabrics and installation of what the color gradation of the Grand Canyon, going from the bottom of the canyon up. And it's a really lovely piece. So you'll have to come to the Dairy Barn to see that piece. But Darren has been teaching at the Dairy Barn. She did an indigo dyeing workshop. A lot of these artists, as I said, hand dye their fabrics. And it's just incredible, the work that she does. Come on down. Everybody wants to see the show.
I know. It's hard to watch.
I know. It's hard to leave it. Just a few more things, and I just Nikki Conley's piece. It's Flying Geese. One of the things that she does a lot of quilts having to do with birds and flying. Okay.
We're going to wait for you folks to come down. Come on down.
So we do have a question on
Yeah.
Facebook. Someone wants to know if there's a best of show piece. Have we seen that?
Yes. The Best of Show piece, it is not here at the Riffe, but they can go to the Facebook page, the website, and see it. It's on the Quilt National website. The winner is Margaret Black of Pennsylvania, and the Quilt National will be touring around for 2 years. And unfortunately, we couldn't fit them all in because there are 85 quilts in Quilt National.
And this is primarily Collection C.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the viewers can always purchase the Dairy Barn catalog. This catalog is really special in that it has the history of Quilt National, and throughout it has quotes by different people and organizations about what Quilt National has meant to them. One thing I do want to bring up to everyone, and Mary is going to be putting it on her screen, but you can go to YouTube, and we have, how many, Julie, videos up? Do you know, like 50?
Like around 50, yeah.
Yeah, 50 of the artists were at the opening and actually filmed 3 to 4 minute videos. And so we put them all on YouTube. So if you particularly like an artist, make sure that you write down their name, Google them on YouTube, or search them on YouTube, and their video will come up. And they talk about techniques similar to what Denise did. She did a great job, or Kate. And they really kind of talk about it. So if there's one piece or technique or artist that you'd like, speed in on those. Our Quilt National 15 had videos as well as 17. And we do have a DVD now available that you're going to be running here.
We'll put it on loop right up here.
So I just wanted to finish up by saying that we do have 2 quilt shows coming up at the Dairy Barn this fall, and of course I lost my rat card. This spring. Thank you, Marvin. Do you want to say? The Studio Art Quilt Association has a quilt show called Modern Inspirations, 1970s to now, art quilts that document the rich history of the art quilt movement. That's presented by the Studio Art Quilts Association. And then Modern Quilts, Designs of the New Century. We are so glad to be able to partner with a new organization, the Modern Quilt Guild. And what they do is traditional quilts, but then they one-up it. And they're tremendous, and they're very large, and they're beautiful. So I want to encourage all of you to come April 28th through the 17th of June to see those quilts at the Dairy Barn. Also, this is the year to submit to Quilt National. It opens June 1st through September 5th. The jurors are Frances Barnes, Judy Kirpich, and I had these bookmarks in.
And
Carolyn Ducey. I knew I'd find it as soon as. She's with the Nebraska Center, International Quilt Study Center in Lincoln, Nebraska. Frances Barnes was the co-founder of Quilt National with Nancy Crow, and famous artist. She's so excited about coming back to Athens, and we're excited. One of the things she said was, Jane, I don't take any prisoners. I'm not going to let any good quilts that aren't good enough get in. And I go, that's exactly what we want. So we usually have 2 artists and then an expert in the field. So I really want to thank, again, Mary, congratulations on your 25 years.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. And I just want to thank all of you. Tell your friends to come and see this incredible show. And I want to thank you for coming today to listen to me speak. Of course, I could talk for many, many hours on everyone. But and I want to thank Facebook Live and Ohio Channel for running me for the next 20 years, and again the Arts Council for having us.
Thank you very, very much. At this point, we'll go ahead